Hello people, I'm the Comic Book Gamer. Today we're going to be talking about Deathstroke versus Batman, which is just a big fight that's happened many times in the comics, the best of which was done during the City of Assassins storyline written by Marv Wolfman in the 90s. That I think is the quintessential Batman versus Deathstroke fight that ever happened, and the story wasn't all about that just happened in one issue, and it was really good, and overall the storyline was good. But anyways, it's been reattempted several times since then, and not even close to how good it was in that series. But it's been done again, and it was done recently by Christopher Priest in the current run of Deathstroke, so I want to talk about it. But before I get into that, I just want to say spoilers for this story, so if you haven't read it, there's your spoiler warning. And also, if you want to know what I think of the Deathstroke storyline as a whole, this series, not just this story arc, I did a video talking about the first 3 volumes of Deathstroke Rebirth, which you can watch, and I'll have linked in the description and in the outro. But anyways, let's get into it. So the first issue is honestly great. I really enjoyed the first issue. It's a great setup issue, but it's all downhill from here. Not a single issue after the first one reaches the greatness of the first issue. Like, it's a really good, intriguing first issue. The issue opens with Wintergreen and Alfred, and I gotta say, the British levels are off the charts here. They're both sitting there in a pub, it's a flashback, and they're talking about soccer teams, and they're being just super duper British, and they got their mustaches, and just everything is just insanely British here. But anyways, they're both talking about how they feel like the moral compasses for their respective partners. I really like seeing these two as friends. Too bad we don't get much of them throughout this arc. We get little bits and pieces, a little bit in each issue, but not much. I would have liked to see more of Alfred and Wintergreen palling around, but we don't really get much. It's not really explored. They're just kind of there. There's nothing really set up that happens with these two, which is kind of disappointing, especially with how well they're introduced in the first issue. But anyways, after this, we cut to Batman investigating crime at a bank. He looks inside a safe deposit box and finds an envelope with DNA test results that say Slade Wilson is the father of Damian Wayne. So after that, Batman goes to confront Deathstroke. They have a bit of a tussle, then talk. Bruce tells him about the envelope, and Slade tells him it's a fake. He's seen it before, and only an idiot would believe that. He also tells Batman that they're being set up to collide, that it's in Batman's best interest to drop it. But Batman tells Deathstroke that until all of this is figured out, Deathstroke is cancelled. Batman will personally see to all of Deathstroke's contracts being unsuccessful. And I absolutely love Deathstroke's response to Batman here. It's great. He says, "I know things about you. When you move, where you sit, I know where you move to, who you sit with. You fight crime because I allow it. Robin breathes because I allow it. Don't confuse me with some lunatic who dresses like a penguin. Just let it go. Ignorance is bliss." I love that. It's probably the best dialogue throughout the whole of this story arc, because a lot of it after this isn't that great. It's not terrible, but there's nothing really that memorable besides this and some other lines. But this is the main thing. This is like the meat of it. This is the best part, and this is what really makes you think that, hey, this is gonna be a great story. But nothing really happens after this. But anyways, after this, the two just kind of part ways, which is weird because they both kind of talk crap to each other and make threats, and then they leave. Like, they could fight and hash it out right there. It doesn't really make sense, but you get the sense that these characters know they're in a comic book, and they're like, hey, we have to wait for the big fight and drag it out as long as we can and have the big fight towards the end. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's how it is, because again, these two just fought, they talked, they're both right there staring eye to eye, they make threats, and then they walk their separate ways. Doesn't make any damn sense. Moving on to issue 2, nothing really happens in this issue. Deathstroke is on his way to a hit, but Batman hires some people to shoot down Deathstroke's plane, which causes him to crash into some desert where he runs into Talia. And the best part about this is the fact that Wintergreen's in the plane with him, and he shoots it down, and we see Wintergreen call Alfred, and he's like, what the hell was that? I almost died because of Batman. And Alfred's like, well, he had safeguards put in place to where, like, blah blah blah, if this happened you would have been saved. And Wintergreen is like, BS, no, I almost died, shut up, Batman's insane. That was the best part of the issue, because the rest of the issue isn't much. But yeah, so Deathstroke runs into Talia, and then Batman, he goes and he confronts Adeline to have a chat, and that's kind of it for issue 2. But issue 3 opens up with Slade and Talia doing their best to give Damian a little brother. After that, Talia tries to convince Slade that he is the father, and that she only told Batman he was Damian's dad because she thought that would help her win Bruce's heart, but Slade still isn't buying it. We see Adeline help Batman locate Deathstroke to stop one of his hits. Adeline says she's helping Batman because she feels partially responsible for helping create Deathstroke. Then we see Batman trying to stop Deathstroke from killing some random Cold Era hero that just kind of pops out of nowhere. He comes out of hiding. Batman and Deathstroke fight for a bit because Deathstroke's trying to kill this dude. Batman's like, don't kill this guy. And it's really awkward because Deathstroke's in like this flying car and Batman's on the top of it choking him. And Deathstroke's suit is talking to him the whole time, which, by the way, throughout this entire series, I hate the Icon suit. It's terrible. It's got some storytelling purposes, but I honestly hate it. It's made Deathstroke really lazy, and he relies on it so much. It's this, like, super suit that has this point defense system, which it'll tell you every single damn time it turns on. Like, every time his shield blocks something, the little thought bubble says, I am a point defense system. You get it every issue, and it is so annoying. It's like, I get it. I've read this series. I know it's a point defense system. I know what it does, and it'll tell you like it inexplicably works and then doesn't. Like sometimes it'll be like, oh, it's blocking Superman's hits, and then other times it'll be like, oh man, Batman broke through it, and it'll be like, what? Okay, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just there. It comes and goes. It's stupid, but yeah, I don't like it in this storyline. I haven't liked it at all throughout the series, and the white arm is so stupid. Anyways. Batman and Deathstroke are fighting while Deathstroke's trying to kill this Cold Era guy, until the Cold Era guy tells them his story. Like he randomly stops and he tells them his story about how back in his day he formed a group of heroes to help people, but they all got killed on their first mission because they weren't really cut out for it. But anyways, when he was on the brink of death, he was chosen for some government experiments which gave him the powers he currently has. He tells them how now he is incredibly powerful, but he's getting older and losing his sanity, so he hired Deathstroke to kill him as a way of assisted suicide. Batman says, not today, and tries to use the Justice League teleporter to get him out of there, but Deathstroke just shoots the old dude in the face. So that's the end of that. I honestly love that part though, because like Batman's trying to teleport this guy out. The guy's like, no, the teleporter's like conflicting with my technology. I won't be teleported out of here or whatever. And then Deathstroke just pulls his guns out, shoots the guy in the face while Batman's there. And it's great. Also, I have been skipping through some stuff in these issues because I'm trying to cover most of the meat and potatoes of the issue, because there's a lot of side stuff that doesn't really matter that Christopher Reeves kind of throws in there, but it doesn't really matter in the end game, so I'm covering the meat and potatoes of it. But one of those things is we get interviews of Jericho, who's Slade Wilson's son, and then a Robin who we don't know until at the end of this issue we find out it was Tim Drake that was the Robin who was talking to the camera, and he was talking to Damian Wayne. At the end, he talks about how he knows that Slade Wilson is Damian's father, and he's like, it all makes sense about why you're such a dick because of who your father is. So like, wow, he knew what, and it's whatever. And also that issue ends with Damian watching that video while holding his fidget spinner. And this issue was well after fidget spinners were like a thing too, so I don't know why Damian's holding a fidget spinner, but whatever. Issue 4 sees Damian shadowing Deathstroke on a mission, which Deathstroke allows Damian to do because he wants Batman to play his hand so he can figure out what he's up to. So he and Damian go to protect some guy from some baddies gunning for him. One of those baddies is Nightshade. Not much happens here really at all. The best part of the issue is when Deathstroke versus Damian as a knee-high panda. That's honestly the highlight of issue number 4. Besides that, not a whole lot else happens. Like, we get some conversation between Slade and Nightshade, but it's not that interesting. Issue 5 is what we've all been waiting for. It's the big fight. Deathstroke shows up at Wayne Manor and takes Bruce hostage and walks him down the Batcave. Bruce tries to see if Deathstroke knows the secret identity, but Deathstroke tells him he just thinks Bruce bankrolls Batman, because Priest does this weird thing where he has Slade be a complete idiot, because Slade thinks, oh wow, Batman wants you to think he's Bruce Wayne because it's so obvious, and once you think he's Bruce Wayne, you've lost. And it's like such back-assward thinking, it doesn't make any sense. It's just showing how stupid Christopher Reeve Slade is, because his Deathstroke is a real idiot, and this really shows it, because the whole time when he's talking to Bruce, he just sounds so stupid. But anyways, yeah, he just tells him he thinks that Bruce bankrolls Batman. But while he's walking him down the stairs to the Batcave, the lights turn off, and Batman appears in Bruce Wayne's place, and it's like, wow. So here's the big showdown. Batman and Deathstroke fight while they both talk about how each of their sons differ from them. Damian is a failure boost because he's a cold-blooded killer, while Jericho's a hero and a good person, which is opposite to Slade. Slade tries to prey on Batman's insecurities, telling him how Bruce wants to be Damian's father, but isn't sure because he won't allow himself to believe a liar like Deathstroke. Deathstroke himself even says, "You're scared I am the liar, and the liar assures you Robin isn't his child." That's honestly probably the best line throughout them two fighting, because most of it just isn't that good and really pales in comparison to the City of Assassins fight, the dialogue that goes on there. And here it's just like, it's kind of whatever, but that line that Deathstroke said that sets off Batman, he beats the living crap out of Deathstroke, just utterly destroys him. It's not even close. But at the end, we see Deathstroke manage to stab Batman in the gut with a knife while Batman was redecorating his face. This fight was honestly terrible. During all of it, Deathstroke lands 1 hit, meanwhile Batman lands 7. It's like Priest forgot who the guy with enhanced speed and reflexes was. Batman punches Slade, tackles him, takes his sword, slashes him 2 times with it, shoots Slade with some energy from his gauntlets, and then punches him 3 times. Deathstroke punches Batman once and gets a lucky stab in while Batman is just destroying him. If he didn't have a knife, it wouldn't have been a draw, it would have been a massacre. Both the fight and the dialogue aren't even deserving of being compared to the first Deathstroke and Batman encounter during Marv Wolfman's run in the City of Assassins storyline. But I might do a video later examining the two just to show how big of a contrast in quality there is between these two fights. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in, if you want me to do a video comparing the City of Assassins fight versus the showdown in part 5 of Deathstroke versus Batman. So the fight ends with Deathstroke stabbing Batman in the gut, and they both just pass out because Batman got stabbed in the gut and Deathstroke has a concussion from being beaten so heavily. So the final issue shows Batman waking up while Slade is still unconscious. Yes, the normal man who got stabbed in the gut wakes up before the guy with a healing factor. But anyways, Batman wakes Deathstroke up. Then they both start fighting, but quickly realize that them fighting isn't going to get anywhere. And they also hear Wintergreen and Alfred over the loudspeaker saying, "Hey, in 15 minutes, the Batcave is going to be filled with knockout gas, so you two better work through your problems to get out of here together." It doesn't really make any sense, like they were just knocked out, so what's the point of knockout gas? Oh no, they'll get knocked out again. I don't really get it. So anyways, they work together. During this, we learn that Tim was the one who had the envelope in that safe deposit box, but it wasn't him who made the DNA test results. Batman says it was Adeline. So after that, they escape the Batcave. Bruce confronts Adeline. She says she didn't do it. She wasn't the one behind the DNA test results. Meanwhile, Slade confronts Talia, who admits to doing it and says she did it a long time ago to open Slade's eyes up to what they could accomplish together. Slade tells her after his final child, who was Rose, his daughter, he had a vasectomy, so he knew it wasn't him. Then the book ends with Bruce having his own DNA test, but throwing the results in the fire because he says he doesn't care because Damian is his son no matter what. But we, the reader, get to see the results in the fire, and we see it's a positive match for father and son. The end. So any sane person that reads this might ask themselves, what the hell was the point of this storyline? And well, dear reader, that's where you're fooled, thinking that there was a point in the first place. There was none. Other than to boost sales for the Deathstroke book, there was none. There's no point, because if you think from the beginning, what starts off this storyline, what's the point of it? Oh, there will be a change to the Bruce-Damian relationship maybe, because now Slade's possibly his father. Well, going into it, you know Slade is not going to be his father. You know they're not going to change that. You know they're not going to make Batman suddenly kidless and make Damian just another random Robin, not his son. That wouldn't make any sense because of the fact that Damian is already, generally speaking, the most hated Robin. Some people really like him. I like him when Grant Morrison writes him. Besides that, I'm not a big fan of him. I do like him in Super Sons, though. Peter J. Tomasi's done some good stuff with him. But for the most part, he's like my least favorite Robin. I don't care for him. And that's how I see a lot of people reacting on the internet. I see a lot of people don't really care for Damian. So if you make him not Bruce's son, that makes people hate him even more. Because then what even is the point? At least now you're like, okay, we see why Bruce has to put up with him. He's his kid. We understand. But if he wasn't his kid, what the hell's even the point? So there was no point there. That didn't change anything. I guarantee you no Batman writer after this is ever going to mention this storyline ever, unless they suddenly bring Deathstroke in to be a villain. They're never going to mention this storyline. No one's going to be like, hey, remember that time when Damian was almost Slade's son, but then he wasn't? Wow. No one's going to mention that. It doesn't matter. Another point might be, oh, we finally get to see who's better between Batman or Deathstroke. Get a definitive answer. We already got one during Marv Wolfman's series, but we needed it again for updated times for the new kiddos who are into comics and haven't read that. Well, we don't get it because they have a draw. I guess we get our answer because Batman utterly destroys Deathstroke, but at the same time, it ends in a draw because Deathstroke stabbed him in the gut. So that, you know, they pussied out there, so there's no real answer. Christopher Priest didn't have any balls. He just made it a draw, so nothing interesting there. And I guess the third thing could be, well, maybe it could be a cool mystery, like trying to figure out who planted these DNA results and why would they want to do that. But in the end, it's super predictable. Like, you start reading, you're like, oh, it's Talia. When she shows up, you're immediately like, oh yeah, it was Talia. And then, wow, it turns out it's Talia, and she has the most boring-ass reason for doing it. Because she wanted to open Deathstroke's eyes to what they could accomplish together. Just how she's always like, detective, we could take over the world. Now she's like, Slade, man of anger, we could take over the world. Oh, wow. So new and refreshing and not stupid at all. It's like, this story was so pointless. That's what makes me mad, is the fact that I spent money on this. It's so pointless. Like, nothing was good about it, really. The first issue was great, and then from there on, there's no point to anything. It's just a drag, and nothing's really interesting, and no character's really written that well. Like, I like Alfred and Wintergreen, but they're not in it that much. And then Batman feels off and Deathstroke feels off. Neither of them really feel like themselves, because Batman feels way too insecure about the fact that Damian's not his son. Like, that's how he feels. I don't think Batman for a second would believe, oh yeah, Damian's not my son. He sees some random envelope that's planted in a deposit box, and he suddenly believes it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, he's so insecure about during this story that doesn't add up with Batman. And then there are several things with Deathstroke that just don't add up, like the fact that he's an idiot, but yeah. And the fact that he got his ass beat by Batman when he is physically superior to Batman in every way. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, overall, not a fan of the story. There was literally no point to it. The art was good. The first issue is good. But that's it. Honestly, there's no point. I do want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the storyline if you read it? I really want to hear from you guys, because I know fellow Deathstroke fans enjoy Christopher Priest's run more than I did. I haven't been the biggest fan of it. There hasn't really been anything that I absolutely loved. So far, it's just been very meh, middle of the road for me. But yeah, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this storyline? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and let me know with a comment that you did. I spent a lot of time working on it, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.